So, like, as a co-founder of Walking Book Fairs, how do you define reading books today, like consuming of content and thinking about that?
Yeah, so I think today in 2026, there is much talk about people not reading. And as somebody who runs bookstores and has been doing this for the last 12 years, the shift that I am seeing today, mostly in a lot of young people, and I don't blame them for it, is lot of young people come to the bookstore for reels.
Completely, ma'am. And coming to that, this post-truth era, where once I read a book that is that assuming ourselves to death, that is like in a way that people have lost deep thinking. Like they are just coming to a more simple ways to think, simple ways to just analyze things. They are just not giving much more content to their deep thinking and stuffs, because we are here so much overwhelmed with lot of information that we just lack a deep knowledge on a single content. Okay, and just finds that the reality that we see is so much hindered by our assumptions and our approaches, because, and this book just states that the reality we are seeing is just a mirage. It's not even existing. So what is your approach to that?
You know, we all are different people. We all have different life experiences. We all go through different things in life.
Greetings everyone, I am Roshni, your RJ from SOA English Café. Today we are here at SOA Youngistan's yet another episode of Thinking Critically with SOA English Café in collaboration with SOA Radio 90.4. Now, in earlier episodes, we have talked about how we can have a technical and analytical approach to our thoughts and arguments. Today, we are going much more deeper onto that. That is, where do actually thinking begins? So for that, and that is actually reading. So for that, we have the co-founder of Walking BookFairs, Miss Shatabdi Mishra ma'am, whose work has been so instrumental in making books accessible and adding meaning to people's life through diverse cultures and traveling through diverse states of India and across. I'm coming to Walking Book Fairs, from backpacks to bookmobiles. Like, you have converted your ambulance, your first bookmobile. So it's striking visual that once a vehicle which was saving lives is now just perceived in a way that it is reaching out to people through books. So do you think that books are a form of healing or survival? And is it a metaphor that you used an ambulance for that?
Hi, so yeah, ambulance saving lives and books also save lives. So I think that goes perfectly with that.
So it was an intentional metaphor, I guess.
Not really. So if I tell you this story, you're going to be very, very surprised. So when we were in Koraput, when we were taking books in backpacks and walking around villages, we did not have the resources to get, like a standard shop or a space, which comes at a price. Probably why we don't have so many bookstores and libraries, because there are logistics to these things. So what we could manage at that point was our own backpack and suitcase. So we were carrying books and walking. But then after a point, it was not feasible, because books are really heavy. And when you have to go to, one village to another village, when you have to walk all the way, it becomes really heavy. And we could only reach as many people within that area. So we wanted to actually go to other places, and we did not have the resources, did not have the money to get like a proper bookmobile with, shelves and everything. But with a little help from some friends, all we could manage was a rickety old ambulance, which was, I think, already 25 years old when we purchased it. Half the things, purzas were not working on that ambulance. The brake was not working. There was nothing. It was just a box that we could somehow, drive and load our books and
Reach to places.
travel. Yeah. So that served whatever purpose it had to. And this is what we could do best at that time. So we were just making the most of it.
Completely, ma'am. And I just found that you are really interested in artistic, because that ambulance was hand painted with bookshelves that can accommodate up to 4,000 books. So that was a great approach, that you just converted an ambulance just to a medium to transmit books. So again, coming to that, many people see that reading is a form of escapism. So in your experience, does escapism through literature weaken engagement with reality, or can it be actually just strengthening it in some or the other way?
Right. So, for a lot of people, lot of readers who read books for pleasure, for an escape from our dreary real lives, when our real life gets a bit too much, we want to escape into maybe another world, maybe we want to travel to another place. That is there, that is of course there. But reading is also about empowerment as much as it is about an escape. And if real life gets really hard, and if I can find an escape in a paperback book and heal myself, restore myself, recharge my batteries for say 1 hour, 1 day, and then get back to, the struggles of life, then why not? So, yeah.
So is it like escape? We are not just escaping, we are just seeing reality in our very own perspective. So as a co-founder of Walking BookFairs, how do you define reading books today, like consuming of content and thinking about that?
Yeah, so I think today in 2026, there is much talk about people not reading. And as somebody who runs bookstores and has been doing this for the last 12 years, the shift that I am seeing today, mostly in a lot of young people, and I don't blame them for it, is lot of young people come to the bookstore for reels. They take pictures, they want to make videos in front of books, but they do not engage with books. They're not readers. They don't even look at books. So this is a dangerous trend. And this is not the fault of the young people who are doing this. It is something that probably, consumerism has designed for them. Okay, do this and it's supposed to be cool. But we are also at the same time seeing that a lot of young people are also reading. And why this is important is because as a child, you were handed a book, you went to the library and there were libraries around, there were bookstores around, and you saw that, okay, I should be reading and there is something in books that I will find. So maybe people would be doing that more. So that is how things are. But people are still reading, because every day at our bookstore, we see at least one person who is interested in books, in reading, and maybe it is their first time visiting a bookstore. Okay. So that is how things are in the real world.
Ma'am, according to that, once we just go through that, how do you think that we can just encourage today's youth, that is so much of the retention ability through reels and through short content? They are so much engrossed that they just consume short time content, or they just believe in facts that are not true also through just fake media. So
yeah, this is very important, because social media lot of studies have found that social media has a deep negative impact on young minds. But this is something which is very accessible. Like everybody has a phone in their hands, and attention span is going on decreasing, right? Everybody is like, and what you talked about, short form
Content.
So we are calling it content now, and a lot of people are looking at this content day in, day out. It's like a black hole. So once you are there, you just get sucked in. So one has to resist that. One has to stay away from these short format content. And what we see on there is not the truth. It's not knowledge. Our brains, human brains, were not designed to handle so much of content. You know, misinformation, disinformation, all kinds of lies are everywhere, and you have no way of, knowing which to follow, what not to follow. So that is something which a lot of people are grappling with, and it affects your mental health. Completely. It affects your whole personhood. So this is something which is extremely dangerous, but it's widely available. It's accessible to everybody, even young children. Young children have mobile phones, smartphones, and they're looking at, just don't look at it. It's, the choice is yours. Maybe pick up a book, read. So the human brain was not made to look at content and consume so much content. I think we need to nourish our brains.
Completely.
With so many different things. We only have a limited time on earth. And within this short time, there are so many things that we need to understand as a human being walking this earth, this beautiful, beautiful world of ours. There's so many languages, so many places, so many cultures. There's music, there's food, there are different kinds of people, different traditions. So many things, and the only way to understand all of these things is probably through books, through reading. So there's another very interesting thing. A lot of people these days, they don't read anymore. They only read the blurb, or they only read the review to know what has been said about a certain book. Sometimes, there are young people who have read something about Lolita. These are some very famous books that have been cancelled, some very famous authors that have been cancelled. Oh, okay, Lolita, this is supposed to be, bad. Go read that book. Don't read about that book. Go read that book. Oh, Arundhati Roy is bad. Go read Arundhati Roy. Okay, this is, somebody said something about Simone de Beauvoir. Go read Simone de Beauvoir. Read. And then make your own opinion. You have to have your own thoughts. Critical thinking is very, very important. And reading helps anybody develop that at any age. So that is very important.
Completely, ma'am. And coming from a place where people have preconceived notions, as you told about various authors being cancelled about that, because we have an idea of approach that let's read the review, then we'll go further. Why don't we have a surprise book reading? Like, pick up a book from the shelf and start reading. Maybe you'll find something that people have missed out, or something that you can perceive in a way that people might have not.
Absolutely. This is very important. The whole point. So how do people read these days? So maybe you heard about a book through Book Talk, through Bookstagram, or some influencer recommending a book.
Yes.
Right. So again, we have to look at this whole system, which is algorithm driven. Sometimes one book gets all the popularity. It might not be a great book. It might be a good book for somebody else, might not be a good book for me. So when I am in a bookstore, and this is very important, why we need bookstores and libraries and why we need to browse and discover books. So when I am in a bookstore, there is no algorithm. I am there myself. I am browsing, I am discovering as per what my brain, my soul, I need. So I look at 10 books. I come across 10 different ideas. I might not be buying them, but I get the opportunity to look at a book, to hold a book, to read a book, to actually feel, to get immersed in that. What is this author talking about? Where is it set? I get to admire the book cover, the design. I get to touch it, feel the paper, and I am there in the moment. So that is something very special that cannot be replicated. That can never happen online. That can never happen with an algorithm. There is another person maybe who's talking to me. So there is that human, that communication. And this is what we thrive on. We need that human contact. We need that connect. So this is very, very important.
Completely, ma'am. And because today we have a Kindle culture, because like so-called Gen Zs we have a lot of Kindle culture, that we just read a summary of a book through Kindle or read book through Kindle. But as you just mentioned, that is it is an overall experience to touch a book, to read it, and just to read like 20 pages a day, that you are going through a process of some storytelling, like for 20 days you're reading a book. So that is an overall experience that you can get while through touching a book, rather than just skipping through and just going through reviews and going through Kindle. Ma'am, you have just answered, like, it's a decade now, more than a decade. You have answered a lot of questions through a decade. What is one question you wish every young person, especially engineering students, would have asked themselves before they are being graduated? Like, they should ask themselves through deep thinking.
Okay, yeah. So I think asking questions is very important. This is something that is not encouraged in our society at all. Right from childhood, we are always, asked to be polite, be respectful. There is a difference between being respectful and being polite and asking questions. Asking questions is generally not rewarded in our society, but this is something that everybody must do. We must ask questions of ourselves. We must ask questions of others, wherever we are. School, college, university, workplace, wherever. Ask questions of your parents. Ask questions of your teachers, elders, bosses, prime ministers, presidents. Everybody should be accountable and answerable to each other, because we all live in one ecosystem. We all share the same earth. We are all responsible for each other. Now, one question that everybody should ask of themselves is, who am I? We do ask this. Everybody has this in their mind at some point or the other.
Yes.
And what am I doing? A lot of young people go through a lot of struggle as they grow up and are faced with uncertainties, an uncertain future. Okay, I'm doing my graduation, I'm doing my course, but what comes after this? Will I get a job? Will I be able to, have a good life? And there's so much pressure from parents, from relatives, because relatives come and ask your parents, okay, what is your daughter doing? What is your son doing? My daughter is in America. My son is, driving this car. So everybody is now invested in your life.
Constant
and
peer pressure.
Sometimes you are just like, okay, what am I doing with my life? And this might be something that you don't want to do. But there is that invisible sword hanging on your head. Okay, you must do this. You must do that. But you have to stop. You have to just stop all that noise in your head and just ask yourself, what do I want to do? It's not an easy question. It's not an easy answer that you're going to get. But you must ask these questions to yourself. And at some point, you will get the answers. You need to follow what your heart tells you to do.
Okay, ma'am, coming to next segment, like we are in a post-truth era, like where like people don't just they are not giving a deep approach, a deep analytical approach to the segments and approaches. Like media is also coming and just they are just a propaganda in itself. Just like media is not giving the grounded and core approach to that. It is just giving what others and what the ambassadors are saying. So how do media affect the post-truth era of today's world?
Yes, this is a very good question, and I think as any individual, this is a responsibility which is an individual responsibility, and we all must carry this. You know, scrolling, doom scrolling and jumping from one reel to another, and you know, being surrounded by so much misinformation. At the very core, what we can do is stop, pause, reset, pick a book, question everything that you see around you. When we get up in the morning and when we go out of our houses, what is it we see anywhere in India? Be it Bhubaneswar, be it Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Bangalore, any big city. When we get out of our houses and when we walk, say, 10 steps, 20 steps, we see garbage lying somewhere. We see a lot of things. So what is it that we see? That is our truth. The truth is not what some propaganda movie is going to tell us. What is our history? If you're interested in history, if you're interested in politics, if you're interested in society, there are so many books. There are so many good books that we need to read. You need to seek knowledge and you need to go after that. You need to go after the truth. Just don't sit there and take everything lying down, whatever is being fed to you, whatever is being thrown at you. And it's just not enough to say today, in today's world, that, oh, I did not know about it. If you want to know about something, there's so many sources. You can't be a naive person in 2026 saying that, okay, I don't have the information. Everything is there, right? So actively go out and seek that information, seek that knowledge. Go read 20 books, form your own thoughts, form a critique of things. Okay, so and so is saying something and this person is saying that and this is what it seems like. But then if you have read some books, if you have some, life exposure, when you walk around town, when you walk around your college, when you walk around university, you see so many things. How people are talking to each other. How, things are happening. What is happening around us. So you immediately form an understanding. Right.
And just finds that the reality that we see is so much hindered by our assumptions and our approaches and this book just states that the reality we are seeing is just a mirage. It's not even existing. So what is your approach to that?
We all are different people. We all have different life experiences. We all go through different things in life. So what I am thinking, you might not be thinking the same thing, right? But it is important that all of us, coming from different backgrounds, different cultures, speaking different languages, eating different kinds of food, come together and there should be an exchange of ideas. What happens when, today we live in an extremely divided world. And there is so much conflict around us. There is war. We are living through war. Every day, we feel this hatred in the air. Just because something is different about the other person, we are supposed to hate them. So in this world that we live in, which is extremely divided, what connects us is literature.
Completely.
It has the power to connect us, to heal us, and to show us the way forward. And how do we do this? We all can do this. So each of us has a little bit of money with us. What are we supposed to do with this money? What do we use money for? Generally, we spend our money, our hard-earned money, on essential things that keep us alive. We buy food, we buy clothes, we spend money on a house, a shelter. These are things that keep us alive. Similarly, a little bit of money we need to spend on books, on reading, which also keeps us alive.
Like today's content ecosystem rewards speed, novelty, and emotional impact. Do you think this is reshaping creativity into something more performative rather than reflective?
Yeah. So like we were just talking about, how a lot of people come to a bookstore to just, take a picture in front of books, posing as a reader. This is something which is happening because we live in times of performance. So everybody wants to be seen as a reader, to look cool maybe, but you don't actually want to do the labor. You are not actually reading. So you're not getting anything. You're not gaining anything by being performative. A lot of people also, like we always want to be validated for whatever we are doing. We want appreciation. So naturally, in this whole dopamine system where we need instant gratification and maybe likes and shares and whatever. So people are living on social media. Let me tell you one very interesting thing. So Walking BookFairs has never really collaborated with any influencers. So people talk about social media, people talk about followers, people talk about okay, these many followers and that, and let's collab and I'll get you reach and all of that. So that is not how the real world works. I might have, so celebs these days, a lot of publishers want to publish books by celebs.
Yes.
Who have, or who are Instagram celebs rather. So you might have like 1 million followers, but if your book gets published, it doesn't necessarily mean that 1 million people are going to buy that book.
Never.
So the real world, who is spending money on what is actually happening, and what it looks like on social media are all very different. So no matter how much I'm performing out there, how much I'm curating whatever, and how aesthetic or whatever it is, that is not the truth.
For many children, especially in you have seen people and your work is so much grounded, like you have just spread maths with books in the more grounded way, where you have touched every single grounded points of marginalized groups and environments. Can you say that how children who haven't seen a book, never gotten any acquaintance to the book, how they react, how they feel to a book, how your eyes reflect to that?
It's extremely sad that even in 2026 in our country, there are children, there are people who have not had a chance to look at a book. And by book, I don't mean a textbook. I mean a book which is a
storybook.
Which is a storybook, which is a not textbook, let's call it. So there are so many wonderful books for children around the world. Also in India, we have beautiful storybooks for children, especially for children. There are picture books, there are all kinds of beautifully designed, colorful stories, illustrations, which are just fabulous to look at, and anybody, even adults who are looking at a beautiful book like that, they get lost in the pages, and you can just see the joy on their faces. And so when we were traveling, and when we would go to say villages, or even universities, schools, anywhere we went, even big cities, it's not that people don't have access to books only in rural spaces. People don't have access to books even in big cities like in Bombay or in Delhi. Not everybody in Delhi, which is the capital of our country, is reading books. Not everybody has access to books. So yeah, these are the hard facts that we cannot just close our eyes to anymore. And this has a consequence which is reflected in our everyday lives, where we live, how we live, what we are paying taxes for as a citizen, every day what we are dealing with, as women what we have to go through, as students what are we faced with. Everything is related. Everything from our birth to our death, each of us, all of us who live in this country, who live on this planet, everything is interconnected. What happens to you is reflected also in my life. So we cannot say that, okay, something is happening to them and it does not concern me, I will not do anything, I'll just not look there. We are responsible, we are complicit, we must, do something about it. So yes, there was joy, there was wherever we traveled with our book truck. So initially we had the ambulance. Before that we were walking with books in the backpack, literally walking and displaying books, which is why we are called walking book fairs. And then we had a bigger truck which could carry 4,000 books. So, which was also like a beautiful thing in itself, like engineers. What can engineering do? It can do so many things and add value to the common man's everyday life. That is the whole purpose of education. That is the whole purpose of knowledge. What can we add value to our everyday lives, right? So this beautiful book truck, if you've seen pictures or videos,
I've seen.
So this is something which was very unique in India itself. Probably, something that comes once, and it would have shelves on both sides of the truck, and it would open out when we park on the street, on the road, and people had full access to all the books that were displaced on the book truck. So wherever we went, all the small towns, all the villages, communities, in the public spaces, on the streets, footpaths, in universities, everybody who came was excited to look at something like this, excited about the idea that, okay, books are traveling. So that, and then conversations just came naturally, there were a lot of people who came and said, this is something that we have dreamt about. We always dreamt about doing something like this, and you are doing it, so wonderful. So it was something like that, it was like a very exciting thing for us to do. Also at the same time exhausting. And it looks very nice, okay, somebody's traveling, and all the people, all the media that have covered our travels, they all talk about this, but then what is behind that whole thing? One also has to look at that, one also has to look at the struggles of being a traveling bookstore or library. You don't find food,
Yeah.
You don't find water, you don't find toilets, you don't find places to stay. Sometimes you can't park because there are no places to park. Everything is encroached. There is just no space that you can park. And so many hardships. But yes, this is what you find in anything that you take up, whatever that you want to do. It's never going to be without hardships. It's never going to be without struggle. And you have to take it as it comes and make the most of it.
And that is a really, really beautiful and inspiring story. And as you said that it looks very romantic and aesthetic that one is traveling with the books, but the consequences that you face, and I would say that is like as you would also feel, that is completely worth it, so that you're feeling and you're experiencing your dream. And it is so much once we say now that it is very privileged to be busy on something that you're very, very passionate about. And coming to the consequences and struggles that you face, and one of your article you do mention that the one of the most important and struggles that you face is the parking purpose, that we don't have parkings. So can I ask a follow-up question, so that what are the struggles other than parking you are facing in 2026?
Yeah, so we do not have the bookmobiles at present.
Yeah.
We have sold them off. So this happened when the pandemic happened, because our bookstores were shut because books are not deemed essential items. So we were forced to close down. We had another bookstore in Bangalore, which also we had to close down after the pandemic. And it was a very uncertain time. So we could not afford to maintain the bookstore and the bookmobile both. So we had to sell it off. And yes, like I was just talking about these everyday challenges, when you're on the road, when you're driving, and when you're taking the bookmobile around India, you're going to some, uncertain future. You don't know where you're going. So I know that, okay, today I'm starting from Andhra Pradesh, maybe a small town, and I'm going to another place. I'm going to drive 300 kilometers and then reach somewhere. Anything could happen on the road. I could get a flat tire. I could, something could happen to my vehicle. Something could happen to me. I could die. So everything is always uncertain. And you don't know what is happening. This is what you've planned, but it might not go according to plan. Like once we were traveling through parts of Chhattisgarh, and it was dense forest, and we were supposed to reach before evening, but we did not. We could not reach. And it was almost evening. It was already dark, and everybody knows that certain parts are supposed to be, Maoist strongholds. And so we were stopped by the police, we were questioned by the police, we were detained for hours, and so such things happen and you don't have any control over it. So you have to take it as it comes, and you might not find food, you might not find water for long stretches. So both of us had health issues after this traveling. You're sitting there traveling, driving for long hours. So all of this, and sometimes it's a hostile environment where you reach. Maybe you're supposed to be in a marketplace because you want, we are displaying books in the public space, but there are other people who are there, like other shops or other vendors, and they don't want you to be there.
Yes.
So in real life, things are very different. On social media, when people are performing, it's all a lie. Everybody knows that. So real life is real life. What is happening on social media probably is maybe one part of it. And what we need or what we learn from real life. And what is the purpose of books? Why should we read books? So this is what you learn is to be yourself. What you learn is to be resilient. What you learn is to believe in yourself, no matter what the world tells you, and to keep going.
Ma'am, that is like you have just created a path of just going through life. Even though hurdles come, you just have to tackle them, and just you have to think that what I am doing these for, just for my passion and my dream to make people and reach out. And your work has been so instrumental in making people, adding a meaning to their life by making books accessible and giving a total experience to that. Ma'am, you have traveled diverse communities, and you also look forward to women empowerment and stuffs. Like in one of your articles, you mentioned that once you visited the red light area of Koraput. How has been your experience there, and what was the response of women out there seeing books? Like they are already very deprived, and they have no access to even amenities. Books are a lot for backward thing. They are not having the basic amenities. Then what was your experience there? Was it a little like a sad moment that you just experienced there, that approaching to books?
So throughout our travels, we have visited lot of different kinds of people, and we also went to the red light area, not in Koraput but in Bhubaneswar.
Sorry,
Yeah. And it was wonderful talking to the women, and it's probably a stereotype when it comes to certain things. When you actually go and when you actually have an experience of things, it's completely different. So that is why it's important to also not assume a lot of things, like how a lot of people think, okay, this is how things are supposed to be, this is how बेचारी है या ये जो भी है ऐसा है वैसा नहीं है. These are strong women. These are women who know their mind, and they know what they're doing. What could be done is probably for them to have the rights that make it easier for them to do their work and to protect them. But yeah, they were talking to us, and sometimes it's not also about books. People are going to read and like become something or get a job. It's not like that. It's also about human connect. About each of us coming together. So there were small children also who were looking, and we were talking. So this is how it is, when we go to certain communities, this is what we do. We talk about things, we look at books, we read books together.
Ma'am, coming to communities like that and seeing children that are so much happy after seeing books, and particularly story books, because children would find them little colorful and a little more like they're picture friendly books. So that is a great experience on total to that. Ma'am, coming to that, our major thing that we are like today, the analytical thinking and a critical thinking have been a very sidelined approach to basically young generations like ours. Like today we are just so much disconnected for reading books. We just come and grasp this and that and bits and byte of knowledge and facts and figures, and sometimes that are not correct also. So how will you just make a little statement to that, argument to that, like how can you approach that, how the analytical thinking of youth like us can be in a more better way today?
Start reading. Start today. There's nothing that is stopping you. Read for 10 minutes every morning. Instead of getting up and straight away start doom scrolling, start a book, any book. Pick up a slim book. If you've never read a book ever, doesn't matter. We all start somewhere. Start today. It's never too late. And believe me, this is as essential as putting food in your mouth as essential as breathing. It is non-negotiable. It is not something that is going to, immediately get you a job or, like manifest into like a big car. These are things that people aspire for. What about your brain? What about your soul? What about your heart? Every day. So nobody in our schools, in our families, nobody teaches you to cope with the world. How do you cope? Why do people break down? Why is somebody unhappy? Why is somebody finding it too much? This is something that is happening all around us. Pick up a book. It's therapeutic, along with so many, like 10,000 benefits of reading a book. This is another small thing. So start today. Do it.
Ma'am, coming to that, what would be one book that you want in everyone's backpack? Just if they want to read a book in their entire lifetime, if they want to read a book, what is one book recommendation that you want to give?
Wow, that's such a difficult question. One book? No, there has to be at least 50. But yeah, so there's start with any classic. Start with any and just pick any classic that calls out to you. Go visit a bookstore and look at a book and pick out anything that calls to you, that speaks to you. There's so many wonderful classics. Pick 1984, pick Brave New World, pick Pride and Prejudice, pick Siddhartha. Pick anybody, and if you like science fiction, if you like thrillers, pick poetry, pick philosophy, pick Indian writers, read women. So there's just so many, but pick a book.
Thank you, ma'am. You provided a bunch of books, a bundle of books in our thoughts. So winding up with, like you mentioned that now Bookmobile has been paused. I wouldn't say stop, paused for a while. And you once mentioned that you want to now approach to different countries. So what is that one country that you want to visit? Firstly.
Yeah, so that is something that I said sometime back when, we were thinking of, traveling to other countries. But but we are talking about going to countries. I think I'm going to so many countries by reading books, and the bookstores are open, and so we now have Walking BookFairs Cuttack as well. So I would really urge a lot of students to drop by the bookstores and explore books and spend time with books, and also travel to places by reading books.
We do travel while reading a book and by visiting places. So it was lovely talking to you, ma'am, giving the insights and the core thesis of what you have been experienced throughout this more than a decade of your life. And that was a wonderful talk, and insights were really wonderful. That would just inspire us to just keep thinking and keep working towards what we are passionate for.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, ma'am. So that was all for today's episode on critical thinking and critical analysis. For further episodes, we are going to go much more deeper into that. Till then, keep reading and keep smiling.
ଆପଣ ଶୁଣୁଛନ୍ତି 90.4 SOA Radio।